Everything you need to know about 1984, Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Oh, Chapter 8 is long, but the entire chapter is about Winston trying to track down some sort of verifiable information from the past that contradicts the government's version of it. The chapter picks up with Winston walking through a poor prole neighborhood where he can smell real coffee, not the horrible victory coffee that party members have to drink. We find out it's the second time in 3 weeks that Winston has ditched out on spending the evening at the community center, which is expected by the party, right? The party members' attendance at the community center every night is checked off because a party member is not supposed to have any free time in their lives. No one is hardly alone ever except in bed. You ate, you slept, you worked, and you were at the community center or some other party function. You're not supposed to want to be by yourself. Newspeak has a word called own life, and it's not a good thing to want your own life. The oppressive night in the community center, though, was not as appealing for Winston as being outside, so he just took a risk and started walking. So he keeps thinking about writing in his diary that if there's hope, then it is with the proles. If you remember that he wrote that in a previous chapter. So as he walks through their neighborhoods, he can feel the throb of their lives around him, and they either ignore him or they look at him with suspicion, right? Because he's wearing these blue overalls of the outer party member, and he kind of stands out. It's not normal for a party worker to be walking through their neighborhood. He knows it's dumb to be there without good cause or good reason. So he knows the patrols can stop him, so he'd need an excuse, like looking for razor blades or something to justify why he might even be there. So now there's no rules per se, but anything out of the ordinary can draw attention to someone. All of a sudden, everything around him erupts into chaos. The people start ducking inside doors and kind of freaking out. Someone points to the sky and warns that a rocket bomb is on a way, what they call a steamer. Winston says that the proles always seem to know when a bomb is about to drop, even though they can't hear it. There's an explosion and things just shatter around him. When he gets up, he has to throw the glass and dust off of him, and he sees this hand on the ground just laying there like it got blown off of somebody. He just kicks the hand in the gutter and keeps walking. The pubs are really busy. It's getting to be nighttime. They serve this cruddy beer that's all they're allowed to serve in the pubs. So he sees some men arguing, but what they're really arguing about is the lottery. The lottery is a big deal to the proles. They're really invested. It's a total passion, and it's a distraction. It keeps them ignorant, right? Winston knows that the big payouts are fake, but he thinks that even though he has said there's hope for change in the proles, he kind of looks at them and what they're focused on and how they live their lives, and he knows it's just kind of like a pipe dream. It's far-fetched. The way the proles are now, nothing's going to change. Winston recognizes that he's in the same neighborhood that he bought the diary in and the other store where he bought the pen and ink. He stops at the top of these steps down into a pub, and he sees this super old man going in. So he thinks about how, the few old men that are proles that are around are the last links to capitalism. And this is a system that all the history books put out by Big Brother have painted as evil and enslaving of the poor. So they really made out, how horrible capitalism was because, again, Big Brother is supposed to be like a communist Marxist state. He decides to go down into the pub to try to question the old man about whether the days before the revolution were better or worse than they are now. So he goes in, and when he goes in, the old man is in a big fight with the bartender because the old man wants a pint of beer, and now they're only sold in liters and half liters, and this really ticks the old man off. Winston buys him a beer and sits down with the old man at a private table to try to get some information out of him, right? The bottom line is that despite trying to ask him very specific questions about how the world used to be, the old man just rambles and goes off on tangents. Winston can't even follow what he's saying and talking about, even after trying a lot to get him back on track. Well, the man gets up and goes to the bathroom. Winston just realizes, in less than 20 years, there's not going to be anyone that knows if life was ever better before Big Brother. He gets up, leaves, and wanders, and then all of a sudden finds himself in front of the shop where he bought the diary, even though he had sworn he was never going to go there again. It's dangerous. And now it's 9 p.m. It's getting late. It was more and more suspicious for him to be out where he was, so he steps inside the shop to get off the street. Inside, he feels comfortable, and we meet the old man that runs the shop. The owner recognizes Winston as the one who bought the diary off him. This time, Winston tells him he's just looking around. Winston notices that even though the shop is full, it's just mostly broken and worthless junk. There is one thing that is of interest that Winston finds. It's a pink piece of coral that's in a glass, like frozen in glass. Winston buys it for $4. He likes it because it plainly comes from a different era. The old man tells Winston there's another room upstairs. The room is set up when he gets up there to be lived in. It's got a bed and other furniture like this, an old clock that has just 12 hours on it, right? Pictures on the wall and all kinds of items like that. Winston actually thinks to himself, if he could rent the room, it probably would be cheap if he dared do it. I mean, the thought is insanity to him. But again, he's reminded of this older time when he might find himself in a room just like this. But he's most shocked about this room because there's no telescreen. So he moves to a bookshelf, but there's only junk on it. And we learned that during the Revolution, the party hunted down books and other pieces of information and totally destroyed it. On the wall is a picture of a building called St. Clement's Dane that Winston knows because he's seen this building. It's now in ruins. The shop owner repeats a nursery rhyme that was part of a children's game similar to London Bridge. The rhyme mentions other churches as well that Winston knows. So we find out the name of the shop owner is Mr. Charrington. Winston goes down the stairs ahead of him because he wants to check out the street to know if the coast is clear. So in his mind, Winston decides to chance another visit at some point in the future because he wants to buy some more items. He's caught up in his thoughts, and without thinking, he steps out into the street, and coming towards him is the girl with the dark hair, and she passes by him and looks him straight in the face. So, of course, he's completely freaked out. He's so certain she's spying on him, and he just feels kind of sick to his stomach, like he needs to go use the restroom. He thinks he could catch up to the girl and kill her with the paperweight, but instead he just kind of freezes and stiffly walks home, drinks some gin, and sits in front of the diary without opening it. He feels helpless, knowing that they always came for you at night. He knows when they get him, and he's fairly certain they will. He'd end up confessing whatever they told him to, but he dreads that there's going to be pain and torture before that. He thinks about O'Brien, but can't pull his thoughts together enough to write anything in the diary. He ends up pulling a coin out of his pocket and looking into Big Brother's face, and remembers the three party slogans: war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. Of course, those are all opposites and oxymorons. They don't go together. But in the philosophy of the party, strangely, they make sense. And we'll talk more about that later. So what's this chapter about? We should get something out of it, right? Really, this chapter just emphasizes the extent to which the past is nearly completely lost. We're given some background from the discussions and from Winston's own thoughts as to how this has slowly happened. Books and other sources of information have been completely destroyed. So all the facts that exist in the world have been created by the party at this point. We can see that the final generation that was alive before the revolution is nearly gone, and those that remain have broken and fragmented memories. Their minds are pretty much lost. The ruins and fragments in Mr. Charrington's shop actually echo this loss of history. If anything, this chapter is a call to the importance of keeping our history alive. You know, we've seen in areas invaded by ISIS in the Middle East that they try to destroy historical sites and artifacts because they want to purge things that do not align with their ideology when they're trying to create their own state. So totalitarian regimes commonly attempt to shape reality to reflect their view of the world. So the world has to safeguard and remember its history and learn from its history as well. So that's the chapter. Questions, comments, you can put them down below. Thanks for watching, and I really hope that this was helpful.